and his raiment was white and glistening. And behold, there talked with him 2 men, which were Moses and Elijah.
Everybody know who Moses represents in this whole picture here? Moses represents prophet, well, the law, the law, and Elijah is actually a prophet. So this is concerning the law and the prophets. Read on.
Who appeared in glory and spake of his decease, which he should accomplish at Jerusalem.
Just spoke about what now? His death?
What he accomplished, decease, his decease.
Right, his death. Right, so they have this conversation now about his death. Read on.
But Peter and they that were with him were heavy with sleep. And when they were awake, they saw his glory. And
So they saw the glory. Anybody know what the glory is? Or his esteem was? What is this? Light.
The glistening, the white glistening, his countenance and his raiment.
Right. He said that what I wanted to capitalize on, he says, some of you, all right, are not going to die until you see the kingdom of the Mashiyach. So we see this transformation taking place. His clothes are starting, his clothes changed. His whole countenance changed. So they're actually now seeing the esteem of the Father. This is what they're saying now. Read on.
And they saw his glory, and the 2 men that stood with him.
Okay, Moses and Elijah.
And it came to pass, as they departed from him, Peter said unto Mashiyach, Master, it is good for us to be here, and let us make three tabernacles.
Right, and the Hebrew word for tabernacle is? Okay. Cool. So, 8 days before this Sukkot, I'll put it this way. If this is the first day of Sukkot, 8 days later will be what? Right, the great day, Shemini Atzeret. So when did they behold the esteem, or as they say, the glory of the Father? On the 8th day. And they built a sukkah, a tabernacle. Read on. Is there anything else? Okay.
One for thee, and one for Moses, and one for Elijah, not knowing what he said.
That's it? Okay, so that's what I wanted to point out. We have Peter, James, and John. We have Moses and Elijah. Moses represents the law, Elijah represents the prophet. Some of you here will not taste death until you see the kingdom of Yahusha HaMashiach. These 3 guys here, they got the chance to see the esteem of the Father of Yahuah. They actually saw the transformation. They actually got a chance to witness Moses and Elijah, okay, and their royalty in the position that they were in. And then we see the Father now casting a shadow with these 2 here, because these 2 here now, in the book of Moses and the prophets now, they all spoke of Yahusha HaMashiach. And this is when we have now, this is my son, which is Yahusha HaMashiach. This is the one that we're supposed to fall under, or come under now. And this happened on the 8th day. On the 8th day. And we know that the 8th day is what we call in Hebrew, make sure I'm going too far down here. We have Shemini Atzeret. Anybody know what the word Shemini means in Hebrew? Yeah, everybody knows what this is. It means 8. It's number 8. Okay, we're going to go to the book of Leviticus, the 8th chapter. We're talking about the significance of the number 8. The significance behind the number 8. We're going to go to Leviticus, the 8th chapter. This is acting a little bit too slow here. Too slow. Okay, here we go. Leviticus, the 8th chapter, verse 33. 8:33. Actually, I got a little reading here to do. Pay very close attention to what's going on, the significance behind, or the mystery behind the number 8. We're talking about the Levites here, the priesthood. So this is the commandment that Moses now is sharing with Aharon and his sons. You should not go out of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation for 7 days. They're consecrating now the Levites. Very important. You should not go out of the congregation, of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation for 7 days, until the days of your consecration be at an end. For 7 days shall he consecrate you. As he hath done this day, so Yahuah have commanded to do to make an atonement for you. Now those that might be saying, listen, you know what? You should only be observing the day portion. We're going to share here now was that when the Father says, he's telling the Levites here to consecrate themselves for 7 days, that's both night and day. It operates on 2 halves. I mean, we're going to go through that. When you get time, actually you can start from verse 1 all the way down. Verse, no, well, let me start from verse 30. We go back, verse 30. And Moses took of the anointing of oil and of the blood which was upon the altar, and sprinkled it upon Aharon, and upon his garments, and upon his sons, and upon his sons' garments with him, and set apart or sanctified Aharon and his garments, and his sons' garments with him. And Moshe said unto Aharon and to his sons, boil the flesh at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and there eat it with the bread, that it is in the basket of consecrations. As I commanded, saying, Aharon and his sons shall eat it. And that which remaineth of the flesh of the fire shall you burn with fire. And you shall not go out of the door of the tabernacle of the congregation in 7 days, until the days of your consecration be at an end. 7 days shall be consecrated unto you. And as he have done this day, so Yahuah have commanded to do to make an atonement for you. Therefore shall you abide at the door of the tabernacle of the congregation day and night 7 days, and keep the charge of Yahuah that you die not, for so I commanded. So Aharon and his sons did all things which the Father commanded by the hand of Moses. So again, we have a process that's happening now on the physical terrain where they were being consecrated now for 7 days. 7 days. Once that was done, we go to now the 9th verse. We go to the 9th verse. And we start at verse 1. Watch what happens. Yeah, the 9th chapter. After this is done, and it came to pass on the 8th day. On the 8th day called Aharon and his sons and the elders of Yashra'al, and he said unto Aharon, take thee a young calf for a sin offering, and a ram for a burnt offering without blemish, and offer them before Yahuah. And the children of Yashra'al, thou shalt speak, saying, take ye a kid of the goats for a sin offering, and a calf for a lamb, both of the first year without blemish. So the Father is very, very particular. Okay, this lamb has to be of the first year without blemish for a burnt offering. So we see now the consecrating now of the Levites. They went through the 7 days of consecrating themselves, and on the 9th day, the 8th day is when they now become set apart. This is now where you can now actually come face to face and deal with the Father. So again, we have the natural realm. We have the natural realm, which is the number 7, which we have, we do have peace, and we do have shalom. But the number 8 plus 1 day gives us a number 8. This represents eternity. So when we say Shemini Atzeret, again, after the festival of the 7th day, we move into this stage here of Shemini Atzeret, where we move now to eternity. We supersede now this zone right here of the 7th day rest that is talked about in the scripture so many times. But when we move here, this is the point where we move now into eternity. And this is what the Father is trying to share with us with the sons of Levi.
All right. Can you put your chair right there with them?
Okay.
Yeah, there you go.
Verse 4. Also a bullock and a ram for a peace offering to sacrifice before Yahuah, and a meat offering mingled with oil. For today Yahuah will appear unto you. So this couldn't take place until the 8th day. The 8th day is when the Father now actually reveals himself now to the bride. But at this point here now, the Levites were acting on behalf of the nation of Yashra'al. They're making all of the atonements and everything for the nation of Yashra'al. But the number 7 now, again, it represents consecration. You have to be anointed first. And then you move on to the next stage now of eternity. And they brought that which was before Moses and commanded before the tabernacle of the congregation. And the congregation drew near and stood before Yahuah. And Moses said, this is the thing which Yahuah commanded that you do. And the esteem of Yahuah shall appear unto you. This is all referencing now the 8th day. And Moshe said unto Aharon, go into the altar and offer thy sin offering and thy burnt offering, and make an atonement for thyself and for the people, and offer the offering of the people, and make an atonement for them as Yahuah has commanded. Aharon therefore went unto the altar and slew the calf of the sin offering, which was for himself. And the sons of Aharon brought the blood unto him, and he dipped his finger in the blood and put it upon the horns of the altar, and poured out the blood at the bottom of the altar. So this is very, very specific on how this consecration is supposed to work. How does this 8th day eternity works? At this point here is that you couldn't just take the blood after you killed the animal and just pour it on the ground. You couldn't do that. So the blood is very, very important. And unless the blood touches the altar, it can't be any remission of sins. But the fat and the kidneys and the calves above the liver of the sin offering he burnt upon the altar, as the Father commanded Moses. And the flesh and the hide he burnt with the fire outside of the camp. Not inside the camp, but outside the camp. And he slew the burnt offering, and Aharon's son presented unto him the blood which he sprinkled round about upon the altar. And they presented the burnt offerings unto him with the pieces thereof and the head, and he burnt them upon the altar. So what I'm going to do, Mr. McCarr, at your free time, try to read all of that. No, let's do it. Let's do it, because there's a lot here. We almost done anyway. And the fat of the bullock and of the ram, the rump, and that which covered the inwards, and the kidneys, and the calf above the liver. And they put the fat upon the breast, and he burnt the fat upon the altar. And the breast and the right shoulder Aharon waved for a wave offering before Moses, as Moses commanded. And Aharon lifted up his hand towards the people and blessed them, and came down from offering of the sin offering, and the burnt offering, and the peace offering. And Moses and Aharon went into the tabernacle of the congregation, and came out and blessed the people, and the esteem of Yahuah appeared into all the people on the 8th day. On the 8th day, but the priests had to be consecrated first. They had to follow this procedure. There had to be a sin offering, and there had to be a peace offering. And there came a fire out, verse 24, 9:24. And there came a fire out from before Yahuah, and consumed upon the altar the burnt offering and the fat, which when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their faces. So again, you're now in the presence of the Father of Yahuah, and the Father of Yahuah, or Yahusha Mashiyach, who's actually working on his behalf, represents eternity. Now, what is the spiritual application behind the Feast of Unleavened Bread? There's a reason why I read all of that. The spiritual application behind the Feast of Unleavened Bread. Now, just quickly, the Feast of Unleavened Bread happens during what season? During the spring. And we're dealing with what festival? Unleavened bread. So we're dealing with Pesach, right? And Pesach is from the 15th to the 21st. How many days is that?
6.
One more chance. 15 to 21. We got to deal with the sisters here. 15 to 21 is how many days? 7. Hallelujah. We got 7 days. The nation of Yashra'al was supposed to eat unleavened bread for how many days? 7 days, right? Unleavened bread. Let's go to the book of Galatians, the 15th chapter, verse 19 and 21. If we can get Shammai to read that, please. Galatians, the 5th chapter, verses 19 to 21. And we're talking about unleavened bread. What is supposed to be accomplished during these 7 days? The book of Galatians, the 5th chapter, verses 19 to 21.
Galatians 5:19. Now the works of the flesh are manifest, which are these: adultery, fornication, uncleanness, lasciviousness, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, variance, emulation, wrath, strife, sedition, heresies, envyings, murders, drunkenness, revelings, and such like, of which I tell you before, as I have also told you in time past, that they which do such things shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim.
They should not inherit the kingdom of Elohim. So within these 7 days here, it was a preparation period. They were supposed to now remove the leaven and be presented before the Father unleavened. You see that? It was supposed to be presented before the Father unleavened, but we know that Israel actually had leaven. Now, the significance behind the 7 days. Everything that we have in Galatians, the 5th chapter, verses 19 to 21, that Shammai just read, those 7 days, each one of those 7 days, you were supposed to now be mastering each and every one of those faults here. You see where we're going with this? So it's not about not eating literal bread. There was something now that you were supposed to be accomplishing those things here, the lust of the flesh. And if you possess those things, you cannot enter into the kingdom of heaven. We were supposed to have no leaven inside of us, but again, we did. So Israel was not able to transcend to the 8th day, right here, because they still had the leaven inside of them. Now, we're going to erase this. The next question is, what is the spiritual application behind Shavuot? Because we have the first harvest now being barley. And we collectively as a people didn't make it. We were supposed to be in a state of unleavened. Shavuot is what harvest season? Wheat. How was the bread supposed to be presented to the Father at this time? The two loaves were in what stage?
Wasn't it what, I was going to say with 11.
Right, it had leaven.
Right.
Right. So that means now is that what we just read, Israel had.
Right.
They didn't come to the Father during the wedding ceremony with unleavened.
Right.
They came with leaven. Now, Shemai, if you can read 22 to 23. And this represents here now the marriage.
Galatians 5:22. But the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, long-suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. Against such things is no law.
Hallelujah. So now, if we would have mastered the 7, you now move to the next level of number 8. Make yourself now prepared for the marriage now. Now you transcend above the number 7 and you move to the number 8, which represents eternity. So we see the spiritual application behind all of this. We must move from this terrain to the next terrain. And to show you how beautiful the Father is, to show you how this is, the count to Shavuot is 7 times 7, which gives us 49, right? 10 minutes? Okay, I'm going to have to finish this up. 7 times 7 is 49. Will this bring us to Shavuot?
No.
You would have to add one more day, which gives us the 8th day, which represents eternity. But again, when we was at the wedding ceremony, we were there for a marriage, but we did not transcend to the next level because we still didn't accomplish now the lust of the fruits of the flesh. We didn't accomplish that. So we're still here at this terrain with the 7s, trying to make sure that we're actually able to get into the kingdom, but right now we're not able to move into that realm.
Fruit of the
Spirit,
flesh,
the fruit of the Spirit.
The fruits of the Spirit.
Reward.
The lust of the fruits of the Spirit now gets us here. The lust of the flesh now we should be able to accomplish during the barley season, and we didn't do that. We still had the leaven. All right. Hebrews, the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 13. How much? Because we use a lot of the time up with the announcement.
What we'll do is, you know how we usually do the hour stop and then I'll restart it.
Okay, so we want to stop?
No.
Okay, be good? Okay. We only have 3 more scriptures and I'll finish up the rest later. Hebrews, the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 13. If we can get Zabul to read that for us, please. Because we're talking about, with this out of the 8th day, we talk about a rest. But not just any rest, we're talking about a rest of, again, eternity. That's the rest that we're talking about, because the 7th day rest on the physical terrain was only that. It was only on the physical terrain. It was not on the spiritual realm. It's where we must ascend to. So watch how this goes. Hebrews, the 4th chapter, verses 1 through 13.
Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left us of entering into his rest.
Entering to his rest, That rest now is referring to the 8th day. Read on.
Any of you should seem to come short of it. For unto us the gospel preached as well as unto them, but the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it.
You know who the them is?
The other nation, or the Gentiles.
Gentiles meaning?
Northern Kingdom.
Right. Yes, we can go that route. But the religious leaders also had a problem. The Pharisees, these were the religious leaders. I mean, they didn't believe in the Mashiyach. And we had Paul now always combating with these guys here, who has bewitched you that you should now go back. I mean, all this whole stuff that he was going on with Paul and the disciples' ministry. But obviously, yes, there was problems with Northern Kingdom and Southern Kingdom. But the religious leaders now, they were not able to recognize the fullness of the Mashiyach because they were all about the works. Okay, so faith without works are dead. Right, so if you could start up with the first verse again for me, please, and read it real slow and loud, because there's a lot of things that is...
go back to the first verse?
The verse, yeah, 4.
Okay. Let us therefore fear, lest a promise being left
A
us.
promise being left us, a promise. That promise was an inheritance. A promise was now an eternal rest, a forever rest. All right, where we're in our, we don't just want to go into our land. We want to go into our land where there's no more fighting, the way that it was during the reign of King Solomon. Okay, that's what we're looking for now. Read on.
Promise being left us of entering into his rest. Any of you should seem to come short of it. For unto us was the gospel preached,
Okay.
as well as unto them. But the word preached did not profit them, not being mixed with faith in them that heard it. For we which have believed do enter into rest.
Right.
As he said, as I have sworn in my wrath, if they shall enter into my rest. Although the works were finished